And I'm working at Runroom, which is an online marketing agency. One of mine. And first of all, obviously, I would like to thank the organizers and the sponsors for making the event come to life. And in case you want to tweet, where that's the user and that's the hashtag, okay? So, I would like to start by asking you if you have ever picked up a book and then you started reading and then you couldn't stop. You were reading for hours. Have ever that happened to you? How did that feel? That felt really good, I think, right? Well, wouldn't it be great if we could have that feeling while we are writing code on a consistent basis? Well, that's why I'm here today. That's what I want to talk about today, because I want to talk about the concept. I want to talk about the concept of flow. Okay, flow is simply the name that we give to this mental state in which we can engage sometimes. And the name was given by this man. He's Hungarian and I can't pronounce his name. I'm sorry. But basically he's like the authority when it comes to flow, okay? This man has contributed a lot in understanding and better knowing how to understand flow and how to reach flow, okay? This would be the formal definition of flow, of this mental state. And when you read it and you think about it, well, it may seem like something weird or metaphysical or some sort, but it's really not. It's something that we have all experienced many times in our lives, actually. For example, as I said before, reading a book or playing a video game, or maybe that's more easy for me. And of course, the good thing about flow is that we can also experience it while writing code. That's the best part, and that's why I'm here today to talk about this. But even better than that, we can also experience flow by washing the dishes or cleaning our house, doing our taxes, things that nobody wants to do, right? Well, it turns out that every task can provide us with the opportunity to experience this mental state of flow. So in the end, oops, I missed one slide. So flow, the good thing about it is that it's not only a way to be super concentrated about something that you're doing, it could be also a way of life. It's a way to basically approach everything that you do, professionally and personally, in a way that it's engaging and interesting for you. So, but today I'm going to focus specifically on how to do this while writing code. And why would we want that? Well, I can come up with 3 reasons why it could be a good idea to reach this mental state. The first one is productivity. For example, when you were reading that book, I bet that you read a lot during that time. And that is because while you are in this mental state, you are able to keep going and you're able to get a lot of work done with almost no effort. It becomes really, really easy. And for this reason also, it's fun. It's an enjoyable experience to be in this mental state. And one more thing is that, as we will see later, when we talk about the requirements that we need to fulfill in order to get there, one of them is that we need to meet a balance between the skill that we have and the challenge that we try to take on. And this means that we need to constantly improve our skills so we can get to this mental state consistently, because otherwise we will get to a point in which we will not get there ever. So flow makes us more productive, it makes us enjoy what we are doing, and it makes us grow. So these are the 4 characteristics of flow. This is how we know when we are in this mental state. The first one is forgetting about everyday life problems, having a feeling of control, losing your self-conscious, and losing your sense of time. So the first one is forgetting about your everyday life problems. Basically, while you are in the flow state, you forget about that, you know, your car is broken, you need to fix it, or you have to pay the bills, or whatever. All that daily life problems that we all have, they all go away. So it's not only that you get a lot of work done and you enjoy what you're doing and whatever, it's also that it's a great relief to be in this mental state. It's really liberating. And that makes it fun also. The second characteristic is a feeling of control. And the psychologist that I mentioned before wrote a book in which you can find a more comprehensive explanation of flow, and you can find some testimonies. And one of the testimonies is the one of a rock climber who claims that he feels more in control while he's climbing a mountain than when he's crossing the street. And when you think about it, it makes sense, because when you're climbing a mountain, your success depends only on yourself and in your skills, for the most part at least. However, when you're crossing the street, you never know if you're gonna get run over by a truck or something. I know it sounds morbid, but that's the thing, right? When you are in this mental state, basically, it's like you feel like every problem that you encounter, you are going to solve it pretty easily. And it is true, because you don't get stuck in anything. You are able to go on all the time, so you get a lot of work done, and that provides you with a feeling of control. When I talk about losing your self-consciousness, I mean losing your sense of being hungry or being tired or whatever. Basically, it's like it's just you and the task at hand. So basically, you don't feel all those things that are going inside you, that are going around inside you, being hungry or whatever. All that is like it doesn't exist. And one thing that you also lose is your sense of time, and this is probably the easiest one to identify yourself with, because when you are so concentrated on something and you're working, then hours go by and you don't even notice. So that would be the fourth characteristic. And finally, I would also like to talk about the requirements of flow. So what is it that we need to accomplish in order to be able to reach this mental state? Okay? So there are 4 requirements: focus, a clear goal and a clear view of progress, immediate feedback, and the one that I mentioned before, the balance between skill and challenge. So the first one is focus. It simply means that we need to actively try to concentrate on the task that we are doing. And this is easier said than done sometimes, because there are a lot of distractions that we need to fight. And basically there are 2 types of distractions. There are external and internal distractions. External distractions are the easiest ones to deal with. You just need to turn off your phone or put it on flight mode, turn off your email or messaging systems, put your headphones on so the noise doesn't bother you. And you can also use tools such as Leech Block or Stay Focused, which are basically browser extensions that block time-wasting sites, such as Facebook, for example. So if you find yourself going to Facebook more than usual, maybe you can use these things to help you. And you can also use the Pomodoro technique. Is anyone here who doesn't know the Pomodoro technique? Everybody knows the Pomodoro technique. Okay, cool. So basically, this can also help you reach the flow state, because for one, you can agree with your teammates not to be disturbed while you are in the middle of a Pomodoro. And you can also set a goal for every Pomodoro that you start. For example, you say, okay, for this Pomodoro I would like to get this bug fixed or this feature done or whatever. And that's going to give you a goal, which is also one of the requirements that we saw before. That's going to give you a goal for the Pomodoro, and that's going to help you stay concentrated and driving your attention to the task. Now, internal distractions are a little trickier to fight. And there are 3 types. There are physical, mental, and emotional. Physical distractions are the easiest ones to deal with, because this means physical distractions are being hungry or thirsty or whatever, so you can just eat or drink or go to the toilet, and that's gonna be it. Nothing more to comment about it. Now, mental and emotional distractions are the trickiest ones to deal with. Mental distractions because we are always thinking about stuff all the time. And emotional distractions because, well, we've all been in situations in which maybe we were sad or angry or frustrated and we didn't feel like we wanted to work at all. So in those situations, I don't really think there are any silver bullets when it comes to this, but one thing that helps me is writing things down. For example, if I'm constantly thinking about something that I don't want to forget, I can just have a notepad next to me and I can write down stuff. And that helps me clear my mind and stay focused. And for emotional distractions as well, I've read several articles on the internet that talk about how writing helps you dealing with your feelings. And I have tried it, and I can say that there have been times where I've been really upset, and this helped me to deal a little bit better with my feelings. So it's something that you might try, write things down. So the second requirement is having a clear goal and a clear view of progress. And it's common sense, actually, because what happens when you're working on something that you don't know when it's going to end? Or you're working on a project that it doesn't have a clear direction, that you don't know where it's headed? To me, that's really a frustrating experience. Because if you don't know how close you are to finishing what you're doing, that's really annoying and frustrating. So this is also very important. We need to have a clear goal in mind, and we need to know how well we are doing. We need to know how close we are to finishing what we are doing. So this goes up to two levels. At a lower level, this means that we should be very clear about what is it that we want to accomplish for the next day at work, or even for the next Pomodoro, as I mentioned before. So one thing that you can do, for example, is having a to-do list, which is a very simple thing to do. And for a day you can say, okay, I want to, for this day, I want to complete these things. That way you will have a goal, and you will also have a view of progress, because you will see what tasks have you done and what are still remaining. And at a higher level, this means that the project needs to have a clear direction. You need to know where it's headed, the project. But it also means that you need to identify yourself with the goal of the project. You need to feel like the goal of the project is meaningful to you, it's sensible to you. For example, I wouldn't like to work in a gun company or in a tobacco company, because I don't identify myself with the mission and the vision of such companies. And in those situations, if I can't identify myself with that, it's going to be harder for me to, if not impossible, to reach the flow state. So this is also very important. We need to identify ourselves with the project. So the third requirement is feedback. Okay, basically immediate feedback. We need to shorten our feedback loops as much as we possibly can. Because what happens when you change something in your code and you need to wait 1 minute to see if it worked or not? Well, that's also very frustrating, and it's really hard to concentrate when you are dealing with that. So you need to make your feedback loops shorter. So whenever you change something in your code, you have to know right away if that change worked or not. And one thing that we can do in order to get there is basically automating stuff. Basically, your environment should do all the heavy lifting for you, all things regarding deployments to production, compiling stuff or concatenating files, all that stuff. Your environment should do it for you, so you can only focus on writing code. And one of the things that I think needs a special mention is automating the execution of your tests, of your unit tests. Okay? I think this is one of the most important things that your environment should do, because for one, whenever you change something in your code, you're going to see right away if you broke the tests or not, and that's going to help you. And also because if your tests run automatically, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be much more difficult that you introduce a bug in the code and you find out hours later. because whenever you break the test, you're going to know right away if you broke them or not. So that's going to help you also to deal with those situations in which you introduce the bug in the code and you don't know where. Again, I'm not saying that it's never going to happen to you, but it's going to happen less often. And what tools can we use in order to automate stuff? Well, I come from web development, so I'm going to talk about tools regarding web development. For JavaScript, we can use Gulp. Okay, Gulp is an automation tool. Basically, it lets you watch some files, and whenever those files change, you can do a lot of stuff. You can compile SAS files, TypeScript files, or whatever. You can concatenate files, minify files, compressing images. You can do a lot of different things. And it's pretty much a standard nowadays, so if you work on web development, you will very certainly you will find Gulp somewhere probably. Or at least Grunt, which is the previous automation tool that does pretty much the same thing. And for the server side, we have Watcher. Okay, Watcher is a Ruby library, and it allows you, as you can imagine, to watch some files, and whenever those files change, you can run a Ruby script. Okay, so you can use this to automate the execution of your unit tests. And in fact, I would like to show you a quick demo, really quick, to showcase how this works. Okay, so. Okay, so this is a very silly example actually. Here we have a calculator class, we have the tests for this class, we have the PHP unit binary to run the tests, and we have the Ruby script that I wrote to watch the files. So for example, if I run Watcher with this script, now he's going to be waiting for me to change something in the code. So if we take a look at this script, can you see well? Or should I? Okay. So basically we have, it's really simple, alright? We have the watch method, and here you tell him which files do you want to watch, okay? Here I'm just watching a file, a single file, but as you can see here, I can put a regular expression. So I might watch, for example, all PHP files of my project, very easily. And whenever this file changes, I'm going to run whatever is inside this method. So in this example, I'm just running the tests for this class. But as you can see, in the end this is Ruby. So here I can do whatever it is that I want to do in Ruby. So I can make this script as complex as I need to. And the good thing is that, as you can see, this is framework agnostic, even language agnostic. I can use this with any framework or language. I can use it with PHP, with Python, with Ruby. Basically, if it goes on the terminal, you can use it, pretty much. So now let's see what happens if I change this file. It's a very simple class, okay? It's just to illustrate how Watcher works. So imagine that I change this method. And if I save the file, as you can see here, the tests were run and now they are failing. Okay, I broke the tests with the last change that I did. So if I leave this as it was before, well, now the tests were run again, and this time they are working. Okay, so that's the idea. Basically, if you are lucky enough to have two screens, you could have your terminal on one screen, you could have the code on another, and whenever you change something, you're going to see here if you are doing well or not. Okay. So if I go back here, I'm realizing that I'm going very fast. If somebody has any doubts or whatever, feel free to interrupt me, okay? Because I'm noticing that I'm going very fast, actually. So the fourth and final requirement is meeting a balance between the skill that you have and your challenge, okay? And again, this is common sense, because if this is your skill and this is the challenge, what happens if you're working on something that is super easy for you? You get bored. You lose your interest on the task. On the other hand, if the task is super difficult for you, you're not going to be able to do it. But if the task is just right in terms of difficulty, that task is going to be engaging, it's going to be fun, and for you it's going to be interesting. work in. So those are the tasks that we should try to work on, okay? Tasks that are appropriate for us, for our skill level. And this is why flow makes you grow professionally and personally, because if you don't develop your skills over time, eventually everything that you do is going to become super easy for you. And when that happens, you will never reach the flow state again, basically. So you need to constantly improve your skills so you can take on new challenges and you can consistently get to this mental state. So what can we do about it? Because most people work in companies or they work with other people, and you don't always get to work on the tasks that you should work on. But you might talk to your teammates, or you can talk to your manager, so you can redistribute your work, so everybody gets to work on the tasks that are appropriate for them. And who knows, maybe if you get to a point at work in which everything that you do is super easy for you, maybe it's time to quit your job. I don't know. Maybe it's time to look for another job with another challenges for you. But that's a personal matter. Okay, so this pretty much sums up all the advice that I've given during this talk. This, for me, would be the ideal workplace. The workplace that is configured to make me reach the flow state much easier. So basically, you use headphones to protect yourself from noise. You have your shell on one screen, you have your code on another. Every messaging system, mails, phones, all that is turned off, or the phone's in flight mode. A Pomodoro timer, so you can use the Pomodoro technique to help you, and also a to-do list next to you, so you can set your goals for the day and you can see how well you are doing. And that's pretty much it. So basically, we know now what flow is. Okay, it's something that we have all experienced many times in our lives. The only thing that needed was a name, and now it has it. It's a feeling of absorption. Okay, a feeling of engagement and concentration in what we are doing, and it makes us more productive. It makes us have fun at work, and it makes us grow in every possible way. So to get there, we need to fulfill 4 requirements: focus, having a clear goal and a clear view of progress, having immediate feedback, and meeting a balance between your skill and the challenge. And as we know, distractions are flow killers, so basically we need to fight distractions. We need to fight external and internal distractions as much as we possibly can. So now it's up to you, my friend. That's all I wanted to talk about today, so give it a shot. Try to use this, try to apply this ideal workplace that I mentioned before, and see if it works for you, and you can tell me, if we meet again, you can tell me if it worked for you. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yeah, one question please. How do you deal with the Pomodoro technique when you are working in a collaborative way with some co-workers? I mean, if you have your own timer set up, yeah, and you understand it as something very strict, as a Pomodoro should be understood. How do you deal when some colleague asks you something and you don't want to break the flow? I mean, that's the problem that I found when I tried to implement a Pomodoro technique, and at the end I realized that it doesn't work, or I don't understand it properly.
Yeah, to me, it all comes down to agree with your teammates, because I found, for example, some companies that I found one company that blocks the time of their developers. They block like 2 days for the developers. Like in those 2 days, you can't disturb them. That's a rule. You have to let them work on their stuff. I found it really curious, actually, and to me that's the thing. Obviously, sometimes it's hard. I understand. I totally understand what you're saying. Sometimes it's hard to apply the Pomodoro technique at work, but you can try to talk to your teammates. Maybe agree something, like for saying, okay, maybe I want apply the Pomodoro technique the whole day, but for the morning, I'm saying, okay, I'm gonna block this morning, so please don't disturb me. And in that morning, you can use the Pomodoro technique. Maybe it's something in between that.
But your Pomodoros, how long? Which time of Pomodoros do you use?
Well, I use the standard basically. I use 25 minutes because it works for me. But if it doesn't work for you, you can change it. I've seen Pomodoro variants that are 52 minutes and then 17 minutes of break. If that works for you, go for it. But for me, I use the standard.
We had that problem before when we used. Now we are not using Pomodoro. But we had that problem, and what we did was, if you have a question, just wait 20 minutes. Is there something that cannot wait 20 minutes?
Yeah, but I mean, at the end, the whole thing has to be synchronized in terms of starting the Pomodoro and ending the Pomodoro, because if not, you can interact with them, and if so, it probably worth it to work remotely, and that's it. I don't know. I don't know if I don't apply well the technique or whatever, but I found also this problem with that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of agreement, and I know sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's more difficult. Every company deals with it differently.
One question. Do you believe that the flow can be improved doing pairing?
Sorry?
Do you believe that the flow can be improved by doing pairing? By pairing with another person? Or do you, like, you mentioned that the idea of environment view is like using headphones and like all of the majority of those things, like for me it seems that like for a person who works alone. And do you think if you pair, you would kind of cancel some of the distractions which may lead you to improving the flow?
Well, that's a really interesting question actually, because I've always thought about flow in an individual way actually, but maybe with pairing, maybe you can get there also because, well, in the end, you both are working in the same thing, you're helping each other. I'm not quite sure actually. It's a really interesting question. I haven't thought about flow in pairing.
Because I've seen personally when doing pairing, like that's the majority of the distractions are cancelled when you, for example, like with the mental, you get a lot of thoughts that you want to share. You share them before you start pairing, and then you're kind of calm down that you can start working and you're with a fresh mind, like going for a quick coffee, something that we do, and then you can focus better and with clear head, kind of losing the sense of time, and you're more kind of inclined to what you're doing.
Yeah, maybe it works differently, but for example, I'm thinking about this Thursday that I paired with one colleague that helped me finishing a project, and we worked for hours, and even at some point I wanted to quit, but I didn't quit because he wanted to go on. So in the end, that productivity requirement, like kind of you help each other out, and that helps you going further. So maybe it works differently, but I think it's positive.
And personally, I've experienced that it not only helps you to focus. I think working with someone else helps you to focus on the main goal, because if you don't focus, then you are wasting the other's time. So it makes you more conscious that you should focus. But also, I think that distractions are not such a big problem anymore. At least in my experience, I don't mind if someone interrupts me, because I'm already being interrupted by the other one, because we are constantly talking to each other. So someone approaching you and asking something, even if it has nothing to do with what you are doing, you don't feel interrupted, as if you are with the headphones listening to music and someone comes and asks you something. That's a complete interruption. But if you're pairing with someone and you're just discussing about the task that you are working on, if someone comes and asks something completely off topic, you don't feel that that match his route. So
Yeah, I agree that the context which is faster that if you're working alone.
Any more questions? Oh, okay, thank you. Anyway, if you want to ask me anything,
Yeah.
you can just approach me anytime. Thank you, guys.